going to visit the Swinton Peace Garden at the junction of Church Street and Rookery Road. It was called the Peace Garden in 1986. It was renamed the Peace Gardens to commemorate the United Nations International Year of Peace. Going back to the 1980s, we have to remember that those were the years of the Cold War. The American cruise missiles were being based in the United Kingdom, and the East-West divide still existed, with the Berlin Wall still there, and it was a time of great tension. And when the United Nations launched that year, it was thought, well, how can we commemorate that locally? And so a small committee was formed from the peace movement, from trade unions, from political organisations, and we sought permission to actually name this garden, which has always been a nice little spot in Swinton, but to actually give it a name and officially call it the Peace Garden, Swinton Peace Gardens. And on the day of the naming, we actually had a march which assembled up on Rookery Road, and we walked down to Mexborough, where we had a rally with speakers. There was at the time the member of the European Parliament, a man called Norman West. We had the local MP, who at that time was Peter Hardy, and Mr. Jack Taylor, who was president of the Yorkshire Miners Union. So a very important union back in the 1980s, when the area still had a very thriving coal industry. So it's always been a little corner of peace, it's been described as, and you can look around and see that the garden has always been very nicely maintained and generally well respected by the community. We can see there's pansies, tulips. The last of the cherry blossom is just falling around me at the moment as we speak. And I remember this particular bed over here. Back in, I think it was back about 1989. In fact, it was 1989. We had a visit from this gentleman here. His name was Mr. Doering, and he was actually an official of the East German embassy. And he visited Swinton Comprehensive School. He observed a German lesson. He spoke to some of the students, but he also planted this rose. And this rose was a variety called Peace, and it was cultivated by this gentleman, Mr. Jack Mulcahy. That's Jack, and that's Barbara, his wife. These two gentlemen were officials of the Fire Brigade Union, who helped to sponsor the visit. And Mr. Doering planted the rose in this bed at this point. And so that was a bit of international relations. And of course, later that year, the Berlin Wall fell, and East Germany, the German Democratic Republic, ceased to exist. So carrying on with the peace theme, last year a poppy bench was funded by our local ward budget, and you can see it says "Lest we forget," and again that follows the peace theme, that we give thanks to those who made our peace possible by serving and giving their lives at times in the two world wars. So that was another part of it. And looking at the peace doves, this was part of a refurbishment project back in 2007, which was actually, it commemorated the anniversary of the Peace Gardens, with new railings showing the dove of peace with the olive branch in its mouth. And the piece of artwork was commissioned, a sculpture, to tie in with the renovation works. The artist was called Hilary Cartmel, and Hilary worked with students from Swinton Fitzwilliam Primary School to help design the sculpture that we can see over here. It's based on flowers, and it was mocked up and created by Hilary using designs working with the school students. Now, if we can actually now go back in history, and it's not always been a garden. In fact, this area was quite heavily built upon with old properties. You can see this is the main road as it comes down from the Woodman, with the Fitzwilliam School here on the left-hand side of the road, and here on the right-hand side of the road you can just about make out the cottages. Now we can come in closer to those cottages, and it was always called, this area was called Coffin Row, and the reason for that was the shape of the cottages looked like the shape of a coffin, and so the local people called it by that name. I've got a series of old photographs here which might just show what it looked like before the area was cleared, because these were very much slum properties towards later years. This is the area now which would face the main road. You can just about make out the line in the middle of the road there. We'll move on to the next one. Now the wooden fence that you can see here, this is the area of the actual garden. So this property would have formed the boundary, where the boundary wall is across there. That was this particular cottage there, and you can see that, you know, the four windows, quite a sizable cottage, and a view somewhat over the road. Again, we can see there were some white cottages here, and properties going off to where Rookery Road is now. And this is now the junction of Rookery Road. So this big house here, you see the white cottages again, further properties over there going up towards the rest of Church Street. This property stood on the actual spot where we are now. The actual Peace Gardens was this particular property. And so the area was called Coffin Row. And final picture for this part. This is the Ring a Bells pub. And you can see the tram lines in the middle of the road. You can see the wires for the tramway. So there's the rails and there's the wires, and that's the property where the Peace Garden is now, and where we have Rookery Road going off to the rear of the Ring a Bells pub was farm buildings, and then the Highfield Farm estate was built in the 1940s. I just want to walk up here and then we can actually look at some very fine properties behind me. Some of the nicest properties in Swinton, I feel, and a real standout area. This is an old photograph of those properties, and you can see it's actually changed very little. The chimney stacks are all in situ, and you can see the Georgian style doorways. The end property is about twice the size. The one on the left of the terrace is about twice the size of the other properties. It's been speculated actually that the builder created that maybe for a house for himself, which he financed by selling off the others. I don't have any evidence of that, but that's what I've been informed. Now, as well as being numbered on Church Street, these properties are also called Butts Terrace. Now, the Butts was an area which was designated in the Middle Ages for archery practice. A number of medieval laws specified that all able-bodied males were to practice archery for around 2 hours a day every Sunday, and also on holidays. Now that was in preparation for war. That was in preparation for conflict. When you think about the battles of Crecy, of Agincourt, of Poitiers, where the longbowmen from Wales and from England defeated the chivalry, the flower of the French chivalry, the French knights, and their symbol was this. I've got my 2 fingers to fire my bow. And they were skilled in the use of the bow and arrow over years of practice because it was compulsory. I wonder if they went to the pub afterwards, after their Sunday lunchtime sessions. But that built up their skills from their teens right the way through to their dotage. As far as I know, the medieval archery laws have not been rescinded. So maybe on a Sunday, lads, we can join together. Maybe we can practice our archery towards Butt's Terrace, but not today. Thank you very much for listening. Hope to see you tomorrow. Goodbye.